And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right. Finally, greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com, and of course, you can find us on the JB and Goldwater app and at JBandGoldwaterShow.com. Across all social media platforms, follow us at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB. And at Darren Goldwater, 843-321-8893 is our phone number and our text line. It's part of the Share Healthcare chat lines. You can send us a note there and be a part of our program, or you could do it just like Craig just did on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. And we'll pop you up into the program and make you a part of what we do over the next couple of hours. And what we do on Fridays is entertain you with a lot of football and baseball today, too. Braves not to the World Series. Last night pounded into submission, though, by the LA Dodgers. They're going to come back home and try to wrap this sucker up tomorrow night at Truist Park. So we'll get some baseball. We have Raphael Esparza coming up at 12:30, and he'll give us the betting odds on baseball, starting with tonight's ALCS Game 6 in Houston, tomorrow night's game in Atlanta. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some NFL, and certainly get into college football this weekend with him. And then the Big Gamecock Preview Shows ahead. At the top of the 1 o'clock hour, that also very proudly presented by Motley Rice and served by Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam. Make sure you've got Whiskey Jam this weekend. JC Shurburtt, Michael Flint will join us in the final hour to break down the Aggies and the Gamecocks this weekend. Carolina searching for win number 2 in the SEC, 5 overall, which would be one shy of bowl eligibility. It's a tall task, and we know that, but there are some interesting numbers to plug along in there. We've got our weekend selections coming up. Clemson's got more issues as they hit the road for Pittsburgh. Guys, this is a game they might really seriously not win. They're not that good, and Pittsburgh is good. So we're going to get into all that here just a little bit. But first and foremost, good afternoon to my dear friend, Darren Goldwater.
Yeah, they might not win. That's why they're underdogs. Yeah, and interestingly, the line has not moved at all with any of the news of injuries and COVID-related out guys, big name guys. The line hasn't moved at all. So it's not like the offense is really that much different with these guys there and without them there, because they're still struggling to score with them there. So it's just another thing on top. I'm glad it's Friday. This week has felt like it has crawled along and lasted forever.
Boy, you ain't not lying on that one. There's no doubt. My wife is leaving town tonight for 5 days, so I've got children to myself over the next few days. So when you see me, I might be dead. We'll see. 12:04 on a Friday afternoon. What do we do on Fridays? We lead off with our 2-minute drill to get you fired up for the sports weekend and ready to roll. I think you all know that Atlanta lost last night. It was not pretty at Chavez Ravine. 11-2, the final score there. Chris Taylor's pretty good. 3 home runs last night for the Dodgers. Try not to pitch to him. Maybe LA got all their runs and hits in this one, and they don't have any to bring with them to Atlanta. 11 runs on 17 hits, and that was after Atlanta was up 2-0 early off the bat of Freddie Freeman. But they're next going to go tomorrow at 5:08 p.m. on TBS. It's a double TV at least type of Saturday if you are in the sports world. Tonight, The ALCS could be wrapped up if the Astros win it at home. Nathan Eovaldi and Luis Garcia will rock and roll from Minute Maid Park. 8:08 first pitch on Fox Sports 1. Again, Houston leads that series 3-2. In football last night, anybody see what happened in that Louisiana game? 20-play drive to win it. Holy moly, 28-27. They survived, the Cajuns did, over Arkansas State. So Billy Napier keeps his name on the LSU board at 6-1, 4-0 in the Sun Belt. There's Friday night football tonight, an interesting one in the bounce house between Memphis and Central Florida. Last night in the NFL, if any of you caught this one or didn't, the Browns beat the Broncos 17-14. There's no NFL on Friday nights, but that did happen last night. And then, of course, we know there's some pretty important games to keep your eyes on this weekend in college football, most notably in our state. Clemson at Pittsburgh. South Carolina is at Texas A&M. And then you've also got ETSU at Furman, Wofford at Mercer, and Western Carolina at the Citadel tomorrow down at Johnson-Hagan Stadium at 2 p.m. So a little state football action. And that, my friends, is a 2-minute drill to start off this Friday afternoon. Of course, there will be high school football tonight as well, but no high school football game on My TV Charleston, in which, of course, Darren usually calls that game. Channel 4 this week here in the Low Country, alongside pretty much everybody in that network, has had a long week from a technical standpoint. And so as Darren pointed out yesterday, they're going to give those guys and gals a night off because they have not had nights off over the last few days. So no TV high school game tonight, but they'll be back at it next week. All right, let's get to the Share Healthcare chat lines here. Adam, lucky ass Bellinger. Yeah, well, yeah, it is what it is. David, I just caught a Facebook ban. I posted a meme just made of Brandon Lee as the crowd saying, I'm not reading. I don't even know what you're talking about.
All
David,
I got there is he was banned by Facebook, and that stinks. At least you can watch on YouTube.
Yeah, well, get off of Facebook. I know that we need Facebook for what we do. I'm not on Facebook. If you are on Facebook, maybe just use it to watch us. I can't remember the last time I even posted on Facebook. It's not in my my arsenal there. But I tell you what is in our arsenal. It's the Post Up Careers Weekend Resume. We flashed this for you yesterday, and as Mike Morgan, again, I'm going to repeat this. I love this line. It's not a, quote, sexy weekend, but it is a good weekend. And I might also remind you, we're almost to the end of October, and college football weekends are going to be gone before you know it. All right? So watch it where you can. And tomorrow, an interesting matchup at noon to start the day. Darren has kind of talked about this throughout the week, that Wake Forest and Army could pose some problems for the undefeated Deacons. They are only 3-point favorites at Michie Stadium up in West Point. So certainly going to have our eyes on that. I'll tell you what as well, this is not on our resume that's right there on your screen if you're watching, Darren, but you know, Michigan is not going to lose to Northwestern, but I do want to watch Michigan at noon because I haven't had much of a chance to watch them a lot. I mean, I've been in and out of a few of their games. Mm-hmm. I really want to see what the Wolverines look like because nobody's really talking about them. And they're just kind of there. It's 6 in the country and 6-0, 3-0 in the Big Ten. They're going to be 7-0 and 4-0 after tomorrow. And so I'm gonna keep my eyes on that game, Darren. I want to see exactly who the Wolverines are, and as it pertains to what surrounds them in the Big Ten, and of course, most notably in that division with Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan State, all of whom are having the years we expected them to have.
Yeah, I'll just say I've seen tons of chatter about Michigan. I've been reading about them and watching them every weekend. There's a whole lot of buzz about Michigan, and it's going to be tough to get a really good gauge for them tomorrow because Northwestern is going to make an argument for the worst team in the Big Ten this year. So where they are right now, I mean, this is a team that will have, just like the rest of the Big Ten East, a chance to figure out its own destiny. They're going to play Ohio State They're going to play Michigan State. They get Michigan State next week. Penn State gets Ohio State next week. So we're going to have something to know a little bit more next week about these. What you do know about Michigan, they're running the ball very effectively. They can throw it better than they have in the past. They are definitely an improved team. The question is, how are they going to stack up when they get into that Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State gauntlet, if you will? And the same question can be said for the other teams on that side of the gauntlet. So I'll have an eye on that Michigan game. I don't think you're going to learn a whole lot about the Wolverines at noon tomorrow. I think we know mostly what we're going to know about them heading into that game. The games that really interest me are the ranked underdogs on the road. Oregon, an underdog at UCLA. Oklahoma State, which was just on national TV and looking great. And, oh, man, they're still undefeated. They're a touchdown underdog at a 2-loss Iowa State team. I do think Army plays Wake Forest close only because they're going to limit the possessions in that game. There are sneaky things to watch for, but it's not the sexiest day.
Yeah, and I tell you what, too, LSU at Ole Miss has a lot of intrigue in this. Certainly the Coach Orgeron news this week is at the top of that totem pole, but in Lane Kiffin and all that. But yeah, LSU scored 49 points last week against Florida. And, that Ole Miss defense is improved, but it's still not a lot to write home about. So, could be a lot of points in this game. The over-under's at 76.5. We're going to talk to Raphael about it, certainly coming up here in about 20 minutes or so. But, can LSU go to Oxford and pull off an upset against the 12th ranked Rebels? You betcha they can. They're still talented enough to beat just about anybody in the SEC, probably, at least in my humble opinion, except Georgia, and I don't think they can beat Alabama. But they could beat Ole Miss, and they could beat Ole Miss at Vaught Hemingway this weekend. And that's a ball game that obviously being selected for a 3:30 kick on CBS has the eyeballs of the TV network. But I think that because LSU isn't in the top 25 or the top 20 or anything like that, nationally, this game has kind of slipped below the radar. I would caution you against that. I think that there are going to be 4 games tomorrow at 3:30, Darren, that we're going to look up at 7 o'clock tomorrow night and go, whoa, wait a second here. How do we watch all this? There's 4 pretty good finishes maybe coming down the pike with Oklahoma State, Iowa State on Fox, Oregon, UCLA on ABC, LSU, Ole Miss, and possibly Clemson and Pittsburgh as well. They all play at the same time, kind of leading into the night games, which, of course, South Carolina is in on the road in College Station against Texas A&M. And we're going to really get into this coming up in the Big Gamecock Preview Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. But, you ready for this?
Don't tell me you think they're going to win.
Just hold on just a second here. Just everybody hold on. I didn't say that. We pick at the end of the game. Last year,
where I'm going to pick, so it's not like I'm revealing a big secret here.
Last year, so I do my very best. If anybody is watch or listen to me in the last 6 years, I do my very best to, I love this word, educate myself on especially the things that we mainly cover and talk about. Mm-hmm. And for us around here, that's South Carolina. So formerly when I worked over at ESPN, and Bobby Harton and I would host the Carolina Game Day, the pregame show over there. I did all the homework, get the notes every week from Coach Fink and all those type things, and I do all the homework. So I've always done the homework. Last year, Darren, you and I didn't do a preview show or a pregame show or anything like that, but I still always did my homework to kind of have an idea of where things might stand. Last year, there was one game on that schedule that everybody was, nah. And I was like, I don't know. I got a sneaky feeling about this. And it was Auburn. The year before, I publicly picked Carolina to go to Athens and beat Georgia. And that was that sneaky game that year. As I looked at everything, and I was like, well, there's a lot here actually that's kind of more in the Gamecocks' favor, just the matchup itself. The matchup this weekend is not necessarily in Carolina's favor. Don't get me wrong. Okay. And I'm not, well, no, that's not entirely true. Zach Calzada is not Bryce Young. And the
he's not, but he's coming off one of his best games a couple of weeks ago, and he's improving.
Yeah, but I don't care about that. This Gamecock pass defense is not putrid. They've had some bad moments and things like that, but they're not putrid. The real issue for Carolina this weekend is stopping the run. That's what Zach Calzada sucks if they can't run the football. I got news for everybody out there. If Zach Calzada has to throw the football 40 or 50 times, they're not winning the game. They're going to lose against anybody that they play. They have to run the football. That's who they are, period. There are some sneaky things in this matchup that actually lead me to believe this is going to be a better game than I thought it was going to be over the last few days. I'm not predicting anything. I haven't even picked yet. I'm not saying they're going to go there and pull an upset, but all I'm saying is I wouldn't write this sucker off just yet for South Carolina. And I'll tell you more about that in hour 2, but I wouldn't write it off just yet.
Well, you can't write it off, right? Because you got to go play the game. But here's the deal. Offensively, they're not going to be able to move the football with any type of consistency. Whatever the defense has, they're going to be on the field a good bit. There could be slight little what if this, then that. Yeah, sure. Inside the matchup type things. This heavily slants towards Texas A&M. Heavily.
Well, the reason if it's because they run the football very well, and South Carolina's had a difficult time stopping the run. And most notably, the last 2 years, they've run the football really well against South Carolina with the same guy that's going to run the football for them tomorrow, Isaiah Spiller. So that's where there are some problems. The offensive side of the football for South Carolina, we all know, is a disaster. As I tweeted to somebody earlier who was asking me a question, it is what it is until it isn't. It is what it is until it isn't. You're going to be what you're going to be until you figure out how to not be that anymore. Nick, I'm not like you, man. I don't smoke anything. I'm just kidding. But with the quarterback change for South Carolina, Darren, there's some good in that. There's also some bad in that. And again, we're going to get into all these matchups. The only thing I'm saying, I'm not predicting an upset or anything like that. The only thing I'm saying is, regardless of what people have thought the last 4 or 5 days, like this is going to be a 50-6 game, I don't think it is. I really don't think it is.
It'll be closer to the line. South Carolina's been right around the line for most of the games this year. So it'll be right around that point. It'll be in the 20, 25 in that range.
Yeah, I think it'll be closer than that. It's 19.5 right now in favor of the Aggies. And we'll talk more about it. But I'm just saying, as I was looking into this, I talked to JC a little while ago. I said, man, do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know this? He goes, no, I didn't know that. So we'll get into all that coming up here in hour number 2. But Darren, Braves got their rear ends kicked last night. And so here's another one of those similar situations, right, where Braves fans are going, oh, God, not again. Everybody, calm down. They're going back to Atlanta. All right, a little bit different from last year. Now, Max Fried wasn't on last night. And you knew he wasn't on, what was that, the second inning when they strung together 4 or 5 in a row. He was missing pretty much right down the heart of the plate, and you could see it on his face. He didn't feel like he had it, and the Dodgers knew at that point in time, I think, that they certainly had him, and that sucker was long gone and over. So that's 2 straight bullpen games, one by the Braves, one by the Dodgers, where we all thought it would go the other way. These bullpen games kind of worked out for LA and for Atlanta. I'm not a big fan of them, but it kind of worked out that way. And now Atlanta still has a 3-2 series lead. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the Braves going home this weekend, trying to wrap this thing up?
I said it yesterday. If Atlanta wants to win this series, they better go out and win the game last night, because I don't feel good for the Braves about having to go back and face Scherzer and Buehler. The odds of getting to Scherzer instead of combining the two names are less, because while he wasn't at his best, his arm was tired. He was only through 4, maybe 5 after giving up the home run his last time out. You know damn well the type of person Max Scherzer is, and you're going to get the A game from Max Scherzer. So you don't feel good about that, and you don't feel good about Buehler following that. I thought if Atlanta wanted to win the series, you capitalize on the momentum, step on their throats, finish the series. Now that it's going back to Atlanta, I don't like their odds. And the Dodgers' odds in Vegas have shrunk. They're only like plus 160 or 170 now. They're still underdogs because they have to win 2, but it's shrunk a little bit.
Did Buehler and Scherzer, did they beat Atlanta earlier in the series?
No, that's what I'm saying. You should expect a better Scherzer, and you should expect a better Buehler. That's why it is an uneasy thing for Atlanta right now, because you got 2 of the best pitchers in the game with something to prove in an elimination game, which the Dodgers, what is it? I've got it up here in one of these graphics. They've won, I think, 5 straight in this 4th straight in this postseason, 7 straight. They're familiar with their backs up against the wall. You wouldn't want it any other way than to have these 2 guys on the hill for those games. Yeah, no, this doesn't shape up well for Atlanta.
God, you sound like Brian Anderson.
It's not impossible, but it doesn't shape up well.
You sound like Brian Anderson and Ron Darling. They're currently on the Dodgers plane across America to make sure they can.
I saw people tweeting about that last night, and nothing bugs me more than people complaining about TV announcers cheering for TV announcers. Don't cheer for teams. They don't. They don't care. They don't do it. It doesn't happen. They don't love your team like you do, and they're not supposed to. So when they say things about the other teams, everyone gets offended. They're fine.
That's not me. That's not me. You know how I am, man. I look, a spade's a spade to me. I have a lot of good things to say, but I've always enjoyed Brian Anderson. I really loved him when I first really got on to Brian Anderson is when he was calling the Greenville Regional in 2017 in March Madness. Mm-hmm. And South Carolina beat Duke and Marquette, and he called those games. I thought he was brilliant. And ever since then, I've been on his coat, riding his tailcoats, whatever you call that. Coattails.
Yeah.
Coattails. I did not think that him and Ron Darling have done a nice job at all in this series. I thought that it's come off to me because I didn't really even start paying attention until I saw people bitching and moaning about it. And I said the same thing. I was like, guys, who cares? Frank Core's up there. He played for the Braves. And then I started listening to it and kind of paying more attention. And it seemed to me, it was like, it's gotten a little bit better. But for a while, almost anything Atlanta did was because the Dodgers didn't do something. I was like, yeah, that's not true.
Well, you got to think about storylines, right? And how these games are approached. They're approached with storylines and the story of the Dodgers and the story of the Braves. So you've used and discussed the magic that have been in the Braves. But if you're going to be discussing at a given time where the Dodgers are, then part of their story is how great they've been, their injuries, and kind of fighting back through it. If you're going to discuss where the Braves are, there's plenty of conversation about that in the games too. People overreact to the only thing, and there was one instance in this series that it's like, wait a second. Ron Darling is excellent. He stays neutral almost all the time. When Bellinger hit the home run, you could hear him in the background saying, yes, he went over the line there. Brian Anderson's been fine. Other than that, absolutely not. There's been absolutely none of that. The Braves got pounded last night. They're going to talk about the Dodgers more when the Dodgers are doing the pounding. That's the way it goes. I mean, that's the trend of a game.
How much were they talking about the Braves when they were doing the pounding the night before? Because they weren't.
Sure, they were. They were. Yeah, they were.
I respectfully disagree with that. Look, because I like Ron Darling too, and that's what's been disappointing to me as much as anything. I like Ron Darling a lot. Let me ask everybody this: how much have they talked about Mike Soroka? Zip. Braves ace has been out. But it's all about Kershaw, baby. Kershaw, he can't go. Oh, Kershaw. Soroka, Acuna, all these guys.
TV announcer.
But no, Darren. No. Listen,
we're on the air for 3.5 hours. You're remembering like
no, Darren, you're avoiding the question. Answer the question. How many times did they mention the name Mike Soroka?
I didn't hear it last night.
Not once in the whole series. Not one time.
Great.
They talk about the Dodgers. They talked about the Dodgers issues.
Kershaw was almost back for the post.
I don't care. I don't care. The point is Kershaw can't pitch. Soroka can't pitch. But the Dodgers haven't won the series yet because Kershaw hasn't been able to pitch. That's the excuse. What about the Braves could have swept this thing if Soroka was already in if Soroka has been pitching the whole time?
So how long's Soroka been out?
I mean, it doesn't matter. The point is neither one of them are pitching.
It does. It matters a lot. So
no, it doesn't. Neither one of them are pitching. That's all that matters.
Been part of the Braves story since the Braves turned things around. He hasn't been part of the story at all. so he's not part of the story in the postseason.
Well, what? But
Kershaw's been part of the story. Kershaw was making an attempt at coming back and getting ready, and then got shelved again right before the postseason. It looked like the Dodgers were going to have that, and then they didn't. That's part of the relevant story. Soroka being out the whole year or half the year, that's not relevant right now. You're not going to say, oh, what if they had him? Because it wasn't even possible that they were going to have him.
Okay.
If they didn't mention him once last night, who cares? It's one game. You're getting destroyed.
Yeah. I mean,
it sounds petty when people go after television announcers.
I just think it's funny. Everybody, it's a foregone conclusion that the Dodgers have won this thing. The Braves were leading at 3-2 going home. It's remarkable to me that everybody has this narrative.
It's not a foregone conclusion at all. Just like it wasn't a foregone conclusion in the other series. It's not a foregone conclusion at all. But you like the Dodgers odds if you've got Scherzer and Buehler. You like those odds better than the team they're going up against.
Yeah, I also like the odds of the team playing at home in Game 6 and 7 who already beat both of those guys in this series.
Sure. There's a reason to be confident for Atlanta, too.
I'm not saying they're going to win the series. They might not. But, like, everybody, they got Scherzer and Buehler going, Braves already beat both of them, and they get to play them again.
Yep.
Why are we writing this off? Not you.
No.
But, I'm just saying in general, a lot of it.
The perception that, like, even the announcers like, oh, now the Dodgers are going to go win. That wasn't even part of they weren't saying that at all, ever. They were saying it's in their favor because it obviously is. But they're not sitting there saying this is over.
How is it obviously? They've been beaten twice already, and they're down in the series on the road.
Scherzer wasn't
not obvious.
Look,
so how do we know he's going to be 100% tomorrow?
You know baseball. You know that when you have two
baseball
pitchers in the game,
like Pedro Martinez was one of the best too, and he got his ass whipped in the postseason.
You can still beat him. Absolutely, you can.
Yeah,
but you like the odds of the other guy better because their track record is better, and the fact that you already got him once in the postseason, that makes their odds even better.
Yeah, not to me. I like the odds of the Braves last night because they had a starter going out there, blew up in their face. I like the odds of the Dodgers the night before. The guys won 20 games this year, and he couldn't pitch. So, none of that. You throw that stuff out the window. I don't think that the odds are in the Dodgers' favor at all, and I think that I don't know that the odds are that far along in the Braves' favor either. But this narrative that it's the odds are for the Dodgers, no, they're not. The odds are not in the Dodgers' favor at all.
And don't misunderstand me when I'm saying the odds are in their favor. They have to win 2. The Braves only have to win 1.
Right.
But if you're just an observer from the outside, I like my chances of the Dodgers winning 2 here with the guys they've got going up on the hill. I like those odds. They're not favored, but I like those odds.
That's fair. Darren Darling. Hey, by the way, though, just so you know, I'm like a huge Brian Anderson and Ron Darling fan. Like, I love those guys. I love the way they call games. I like Brian Anderson in every sport that he does. I think he's really good, really good. So I have been personally a little bit disappointed. Just saying.
You're allowed.
I know I'm allowed. I can think for myself and say what I want to say. That's how I feel.
And I still will jump anyone who ever complains about TV announcers because they're not biased. They're not.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't think that they're biased. I just don't think they've done a very good job. I think that they could be better. So we'll see what they sound like in Atlanta. I do think this is going to Game 7. I'll say that. I don't know that Atlanta wins tomorrow night. If you had me guess, I'd say I think this is going to be a Game 7. I think there's going to be a Game 7. Winner take all, Game 7 in Atlanta. What else could you ask for in the sport of baseball? We all love Game 7s, and I'd like Atlanta just to wrap it up in Game 6, but I have a hunch it's going to go to Game 7. I also have a hunch that Raphael Esparza is standing by. Clemson, if you missed the news, is missing Joe Ngata this weekend, one of their starting wide receivers. He is out with COVID protocols, so the Tigers are down another player and an offensive player that when you don't have a lot of offense, kind of sucks to not have this guy around. Their leading receiver will not play this weekend, so we'll pick that game coming up in just a little bit. We'll see what Raphael thinks about it as well. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. We'll be right back with Raphael Esparza from mybookie.ag.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need the perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and to others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
I'm gonna keep on the run. I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very last dime. If I wind up broke, well, I'll always remember that I had a swing.
Not paying attention here. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Calls is not just cases, motleyrice.com. You can chime in on the Share Healthcare chat lines. Like one of the best hitters I've ever seen in my life just has. Michael Campbell, former outfielder for the South Carolina Gamecocks. What's up, Mike? Call me, man. Call me. Hope he's doing well. We will tell Michael Flint you said hello. We'll tell Raphael Esparza you said hello as well because he's right there on the screen with mybookie.ag. What's up, brother?
Not much. Listening to you guys' baseball, complaining of announcing or something like that. So
that was me. I was complaining.
I think the announcers know that the media is telling them in their ear that they do not want a Atlanta Braves Houston Astros World Series because they would be moved to Fox Sports 2, not on Fox, not on Fox Sports 1. It will be moved to Fox Sports 2 if that's the World Series. So I think saying that the Dodgers are in the driving seat right now is just trying to move the media train to some possibility of a West Coast World Series to have some kind of media engagement on that, I think.
You know the great thing about that, though? TBS doesn't even have the World Series, so it doesn't matter to them because it's going to be on Fox.
But it's just a media in general.
Yeah, Joe Buck's going to have it.
Yeah.
Joe Buck needs the Braves and the Red Sox. That's what he needs.
Joe Buck needs to mute on my TV when he's announcing games.
You don't like Joe Buck? I love Joe Buck.
He bores me.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite baseball broadcaster?
Ooh,
John
I'm
Miller, San
biased.
Francisco Giants. He used to be Monday Night Baseball or Sunday Night Baseball. He's the best out there. But Joe Buck, Dan Schulman are right there.
I like Dan Schulman. I like
Dan's good. Yeah,
I like him.
I love Joe, man. I love Joe. I like Joe and John have really grown on me. To
Give me old school.
Like
Give me Stone and Harry Carey. Give me old school.
Yeah.
Harry Carey drunk by the 5th inning because he's got like 6 Budweisers in him already.
Budweisers, I'm pretty sure.
Old style.
It was the dark stuff up there, wasn't it? He was on the heat, the sweet heat bourbon.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to be on here before long. All right, 12:35 on this Friday afternoon. On Twitter at VSI.Sports. MyBookie.ag is where you can follow along, where you can make some money. So, Raphael, we're going to start with baseball here. And this is my personal feel. Can't you make some money by taking the over of 9 in tonight's Red Sox-Houston game? There's only one game that there's been 9 or less runs, and that was game 1. It was a 5-4 final. Outside of that, every game that's been played, one team has scored at least 9 runs.
I agree, and you're getting even money in some shops with the over at 9. So I'm a little bit shocked that they didn't post it 9.5. They opened it up at 8.5 yesterday and got hit. I don't want to say hard, but let's face it, no one's betting baseball right now. No one's going to be betting baseball tonight because there's college football games. There was an NFL game yesterday with 4 college football games. Yeah, we had action coming in on baseball, but nothing to like, we have to circle this. They're pounding us on a baseball total. So there'll be action on this game. I can guarantee you'll be parlayed with football games on this one. But if this was an only game on TV, no football, no NHL, no NBA, then I would think we would probably get a lot of heavy action on the over.
Speaking of which, Darren, I did yesterday what I kind of mentioned on the program everybody should do. I checked out an NHL game, an NBA game, football, and baseball. Did it all on the same day.
Good
Wow.
job.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, with the wife and kids out not home?
No, they're here. Oh, the kids are sleeping. Wife and
You watch Curry dropping it in from all over the place. I think he was 9 for 9 in the first quarter last night.
Yeah.
I thought for sure he would have 60, and he kind of very passing at Clippers defense got improved in the second half. But I was watching UNLV tank up another bad football loss. They should just get rid of the UNLV football program. Just get rid of it. Give all the money to the golf program, the swimming.
Oh.
They're just awful. The football team is just awful.
Hoops. Yeah, hoops. Yeah, reinvent the hoops stuff out there, right?
Yeah, they can't get any recruits there.
Yeah, it's Vegas. How can you not recruit to Vegas? My God. All right, how about tomorrow night? Braves, Dodgers, Scherzer, Anderson on the bump. The over-under's at 8. I think the spreads in postseason baseball are always pretty much about the same, minus plus 1.5, but this one's in favor of the Dodgers. What do you think about tomorrow night's Game 6?
I'm hoping all the bettors bet Mad Max, but he looked awful. I think he does continue to have a dead arm. I'm looking for Anderson. If I can get plus 160 or higher, I think the Braves close it out tomorrow.
Plus 160. It's a plus, 155 right now?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get plus 160 or higher because I think Mad Max money will come in. Probably not as much as I'm hoping. But I like Anderson. I think the Braves close it out. I mean, the Dodgers just have so many Turners now out for the whole set. I mean, the other Turner can't score, can't hit. They're just playing bad baseball with some bad injuries.
He got going last night. You know what got him going? The shift. Just like Ozzie Albies, those guys were literally trying to force it through the shift, and they did it. That sometimes would get you. I don't count out Trey Turner, man. He's like Freddie to me. He's too good of a hitter to ever look at him and think that he's not going to do much. And he's got speed, so he could literally hit a routine ground ball to the shortstop and beat it out.
But I think the Braves close it out tomorrow. I don't see the series going to 7. I like Anderson to beat Mad Max. I think Mad Max, like I said, his dead arm. I mean, his curveball is not breaking like it used to in the regular season. It's just it doesn't look the same because he probably has a dead arm.
Well, before we go there, he has closed the game before like 2-3 days prior and looked very good to start before that. So there's no dead arm. He was tired that day.
Well, I just don't think he'll go the long distance like he normally does. I think he'll be really good first, second, third, maybe the fourth inning. But I do think the fifth inning and on, I just think he's not going to be like the Mad Max we've seen when he was dominant in Washington, when he was dominant in the beginning of the season. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, he's the thing with when you get that what they call quote dead arm. I know a couple of guys who've been through this. Michael Campbell was obviously watching. He could sit here and tell you how this works too. It doesn't go away. So you either have to change how you pitch, and you can't just use max velocity all the time, or you just have to go max velo and just try to go as long as you can. And your max velo for sure. What's he top at out? 97, 98. I know he hits 100, but he's pretty consistent. Pretty consistently 96, 97, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it because when I'm typing a whole bunch of prop bets, I have dead wrists. Like I just can't type anymore. I mean, it's
if the Dodgers win the series, I would say that is going to be a concern for them in the World Series, because it doesn't just disappear. If he's getting to a point where he is a little bit worn down, it doesn't just disappear. It's not going away.
That's why I'm on Pedro Martinez. Braves win the World Series.
Okay. Problem solved. I'm good with that. Hey, just so you know, so one of my college roommates, one of my best friends, his brother was teammates with Trey Turner up at NC State. They played together, and they're best friends still to this day. They talk all the time. So
Trey's World Series.
Give me a South Carolina tie into that. I was just waiting for the South Carolina tie.
Wolfpack, who got screwed in the World Series this year. The Wolfpack.
Yes, but Trey Turner's World Series celebrations and the whole postseason when he was rocking the NC State helmet, those A+ celebration stuff.
Yeah,
I agree.
NC State has a great baseball program. Raphael Esparza on Twitter at VSI Doc Sports. There's no K in there at VSI Doc Sports. All right, so you said the Braves won the World Series. All right, so we'll go with that. All right, let's get to the NFL here. There are some interesting matchups coming up this weekend.
Some horrible matchups this weekend in the NFL.
Well, yeah, it's not a great weekend. But there are a couple. Washington is at Green Bay. Washington's probably not going to win the game, but will they cover? I think they are 8-point dogs at Lambeau.
I could see them. I mean, that 8 is horrible. I could see Green Bay winning by 7. I really liked the under when it was 50, and now it's 48 and a half. I just don't think Washington could score. And I think the Washington defense is playing a little bit better, so I think they can keep this game close on the defensive side. But when a total was 50, I like the under on that one. I don't think there's much value at 48. There is a couple 49, so make sure you shop around. But I think kind of a low-scoring game, but I like Green Bay to win it.
This is a game that Darren and I are picking today. Darren, are you picking Washington? Because I'm taking the Packers.
I am taking the Packers as well.
Oh, Darren.
Why would I take Washington? What are the odds of Washington going to Green Bay and winning when you don't even know who's even going to be quarterback? And like Raphael said, they can't score.
I thought that was your team.
I'm not taking Washington.
I thought that was your team.
Well, I'd prefer they win. They're just not going to.
Okay. How about Philly and Vegas? The Eagles and Raiders set to go at 4:05 Sunday afternoon on Fox, and I believe it's still 3. Yep, 3. Vegas Raiders favored by 3 points. The over/under is 48.5 as well.
Did to the Raiders on field, but I kind of like Vegas. I'm a little bit shocked at how well they played last week. I think maybe the Gruden stuff is just all behind them now. So now let's just go do our jobs. Yeah. And a lot of these players and coaches say, hey, you know what? We're going to probably be looking for jobs next year when either a new coaching staff comes or how they want to run their systems and all that. So I think a lot of these players and coaches are auditioning now for the rest of the season. I kind of like Vegas in this one. I don't understand all the wise guy action came in on the Eagles. I like the Raiders. And there's a couple 2.5s out there. So it's an afternoon game. If the books have taken a beat in the last 2 weeks. Hopefully we get some of our money back this week. But if I can get some 2.5, maybe even 2 on the Raiders, I'm all about Vegas.
I'm going with Vegas as well. Darren?
I'm going with Vegas as well. I was on them last week after the Gruden stuff too, and that paid off. So I'm still on them.
Oh, all 3 of us, that means the Eagles win by 20.
Yeah, Eagles are going to throttle them now. That's it, no doubt. Cincy and Baltimore also this weekend. Baltimore's off to a pretty good start here. 5-1, 3-0 at home. Bengals coming in at 4-2, 2-1 away from home. But the Ravens are. Is it 6.5? Did that come down?
It's been flow. It was there was a couple of 7s yesterday, and it came back down to 6.5. I think this one's going to be a public play, especially on parlays. So I went up shocked that we see go back up to 7. I like this Cincinnati team. I think with all the injuries Cleveland has, I think the way Old Man Yeller's playing over in Pittsburgh, I would not be shocked that Cincinnati's in second place or maybe gets close to a wild card spot because the AFC is pretty much wide open. There's pretty much only 2 teams in the AFC. I think the Bengals keep this close. I'm going to wait if I can get +6.5 or even +7. I think Cincinnati could be the play. Now, does Baltimore win? Yeah. Does Baltimore rush over 100 yards? Yeah. But I think the Bengals can keep it close.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got Baltimore winning the game, Darren.
I have Baltimore winning the game as well.
One more here in the NFL. The Panthers are up there in New York against the lowly Giants. Panthers, though, they've been trying to get it put together. We'll see. So Stephon Gilmore is eligible to come off the PUP list. I don't know. It's not official as to whether he is or isn't just yet. But Carolina's 3-point favorites up there against New York. The over-under sits at 43. I feel like the Panthers, even with the bang-ups to McCaffrey and some of the other issues they've had, still feel like they've just been underperforming. What do you think this weekend?
Oh, I agree. I mean, you guys knew I thought Carolina would make the playoffs. And, they've just been awful on offense. So I'm tired of playing them, and they put out some stinkers. It's probably a pass. I think maybe we see some points scored in this one. I thought the total was just a tad low. I thought it was going to be around 45 and a half. So 43 is pretty much a low total. And I know the Giants can't score their offense with all those banged up injuries. But I would probably look maybe a small play on the over.
Over?
On the over?
Yeah.
On the over? Okay. There you go. Raphael Esparza on Twitter at VSI.sports, mybookie.ag. Let's slide to some college football, Raphael. Tonight, I think this might be a pretty fun game to watch if you want to watch college football tonight on ESPN2. The over-under is at 65 in Memphis. They are 2-point favorites in the bounce house against Central Florida. Memphis at 4-3. Central Florida is at 3-3. Could be a lot of points here.
You couldn't mention the Colorado State-Utah State game today. You just couldn't. You just had to mention Memphis Central Florida game. But both games are going to be interesting. Yeah, I think UCF. I was hoping to get maybe a little bit more points with the Knights on this one, but I think Memphis will control both line of scrimmage. I think they squeak out a victory. But boy, I think UCF can maybe steal this game. But I thought the total was a little bit high. Wow, 65. I think when both teams want to establish the run early, I thought the total was a tad high. I could see under game in this one.
Darren, I've got Central Florida winning the game.
I was right with Raphael, leaning the under and with Memphis there as well. Memphis is what, 2.5, 3, 2, something in that favorite. I was leaning Memphis. I've got Memphis circled on our sheet.
It's come down to 2. It's at 2 now. It was at 3 yesterday. It's 2 today. So you're going with Memphis. You got Memphis?
Yep, I got Memphis. I do think it's close, and I think the perception is, there should be a lot of points. And that's why I think Raphael, we were reversed. When you went over with Panthers and Giants, that's why I was like, what? Yeah. I'm kind of the same way with this one. Like the under on this one makes a little more sense, even though it shouldn't.
Yeah, I agree.
A reminder, coming up at the top of the 1 o'clock hour, the Big Gamecock Preview Show with JC Shurburtt, Michael Flint, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Shout out to Darren Goldwater for on Monday pointing this game out, that it would be on our Post-Up Careers college football resume this week. 16th ranked Wake Forest is on the road at Army, and they're only 3-point favorites. Wake is undefeated on the season at 6-0. This obviously will have no relevance on their ACC standings, but could have a major effect on what happens in bowl season for the Demon Deacons if they're upset against the Knights. What do you think? This is wild. As Darren pointed out, Army's going to really limit possessions.
Yeah, I think that's why this game is the numbers the way it is, because I think Army needs to limit possessions for Wake Forest. I'm torn on this one. I'm probably just going to sit back and watch. It should be a great game. But, I mean, is Wake Forest really – I mean, you said, does it really mean anything in the standings, but it does mean something if you want to go to a nice bowl game or something. I want to say take Army. I just think their style of play can confuse the Demon Deacons on this game, and maybe there's some teams that are like, I would praise in Coastal Carolina. Now they're done. I mean, now they have a loss. And this is one of those games where everyone's going to be all on Wake Forest because, they're undefeated. And then at the end of the day, you see Army with a last-minute touchdown on a triple option fake that gives it to the fullback, and he runs it in. The game's over. I want to say take Army in this one just because I just don't see Wake Forest staying undefeated. And this could be a game that they may be a hiccup because there's no really significance for them besides bowl matchup.
I tell you what, man, the Army defense although they're physical, I don't know that they'll be able to keep up with the arm of Sam Hartman. So I'm going with Wake. I think they win.
I want to see Wake Forest put on a show. I think it'd be good. First of all, obviously, it'd be good for them. It'd be good for the ACC if Wake Forest could put on a show, if they can finish strong and not just like barely winning. And that's not what they've been doing. They've been impressive, and this is one of those sneaky games. I like Wake Forest to win it, but it'll be something to at least keep an eye on to see.
They only covered 2 games this year. 2 games. Those both of them were barely covers.
Oh, all right. I don't know if they cover or not, but I do think they win. I agree with you, Darren. This is one of those games too, right? That nobody was going to talk about this game unless Wake gets beat. It'll fly under the radar, and then all of a sudden everybody will look up on Sunday or Monday and go, "Damn, whoa, Wake's 7-0. Oh, they beat Army. Oh, that's okay." But if they lose, it'll catch somebody's eye because they're ranked 16th in the country.
I mean, they should have lost to Louisville 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, they didn't. Credit to them. Wisconsin's been losing a lot this year, a lot more than they wanted to. They're 3-3. They're on the road at 4-2. Purdue, how about Purdue pulling off the big upset over Iowa, now in the top 25, and Purdue is now a 3-point underdog at home against Wisconsin. What am I missing here? Is it the matchup? What's going on?
I just think we knew that. First of all, Wisconsin's probably one of the heaviest bet college football teams. Year after year, we always get Wisconsin money, Ohio State money all the time. I just think we're going to continue getting this one. And I know Purdue won last week, but that was probably their bowl game. That was their big BCS. Give us a trophy. We beat Iowa in their home field. And so maybe they'll have a lacking game today. I kind of like Wisconsin this one, but they have a horrible record against top 25 teams. So I'm going to probably just sit back and watch this one. But I can see Purdue just slipping up and saying, hey, they're still reading the clippings of winning last week against Iowa.
Ooh. Yeah, not me. I like Purdue. I think they win this week.
Yeah, the concern is like what Raphael just said. Like Purdue isn't a great football team, but they played better last week. And they had a guy, if you haven't heard of him, David Bell, 240 receiving yards. A Purdue receiver has the all-time record for receiving yards in Kinnick Stadium. That's got to hurt, right? I think Purdue wins the game because I just don't trust Wisconsin's offense. But I could easily see Purdue coming off that saying, whoa, and just somehow getting stuck in the mud. But I got Purdue.
Purdue lost at home already to Minnesota, and they should have lost to Illinois. I mean, those are 2 bad teams.
Right. Yeah. They're not a good team. They didn't turn the ball over against Iowa and didn't allow that offense to do what it does best, capitalize off those turnovers. And you saw Iowa's offense get stuck in the mud, and while they were just letting the guy light them up out there. Wisconsin is a better football team. I just don't trust. You can't trust Wisconsin this year.
I think Iowa's kind of asleep at the wheel as well. But I do think Purdue kind of rides the Big Mo. They win barely close. All right, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. A top 10 team in Oklahoma State is on the road, and they are underdogs. Raphael against Iowa State, 7-point underdogs to be exact. 47 is the over/under at 330. This is, I think this is a game that could go either way. To be honest with you, I think there's a lot of people that are looking at this. Everybody's been writing off OK State all year long, and they're in the top 10.
And I've been one of them.
Yeah, well, are you doing it this week?
We talk about this all the time. There's always a handful of games that you see the matchup, you see the number that comes out, you just put a big X on it and say move on. There's no value, or you just want to sit back and watch it and not root for your ticket and all that. Here's one right here, because you just said it. I could see both teams winning. I tend to lean towards Iowa State, but I ain't laying a touchdown with them. I mean, that's just a big number for a team that has played, I think, poorly. They lost at home already once to Iowa, but Oklahoma State, I mean, they beat Texas. I mean, that does not. I don't think that's not a big significant win anymore. They should have lost to Boise State when they only won 21-20, and they played Baylor and Kansas State at home. So this was a tricky one. I understand why Iowa State's the favorite. I understand why the money's coming in on the Cyclones, but I'm just passing on this one because I've been wrong on the Cowboys all year long.
Yeah, I've been right on them all year long, but this week they're not going to like me because I'm going the other way. I do think Iowa State, they're good for an upset a year, man, and I think they get it this week. I think Iowa State wins, Darren.
This is, like Raphael said, you put a big X on it. It's the one on the sheet that you sent me I didn't circle one because I'm sitting like even with the line, this is hard for me to wrap my head around and get. I don't know if anyone really has a good feel for the way this is going to go. The fact that it's a 7-point line makes you really want to lean and say, okay, well, Iowa State's probably going to win the game. I'm going to go Oklahoma State though. I'm going to assume there's just something there that they can find a way to keep the magic going, find a way to keep this perfect season alive. I'm not confident in that at all, though.
I don't know if anybody's confident in Oregon and UCLA either. 3:30 on ABC. It's now a 1-point spread in favor of the Bruins. The over-under's at 60.5, Raphael.
You know me, I love me some West Coast because no one else gives any West Coast some love. This is a huge game for Oregon. I know it's a huge game for UCLA at home, but can you imagine on your resume when it's time to talk who's top 4, bowl game, New Year's Eve, whatever, and you're Oregon and say, hey, you know what? We went to the shoe and won with our defensive guys, our best defensive guys not playing. And then we went to UCLA, the Rose Bowl, and won. That's some 2 significant road wins. And I think I kind of like the Ducks in this one. I just give me some Pac-12 love. Finally, someone gives some Pac-12 love. I like the Ducks in this spot because you can't argue their resume if they continue to only have 1 loss and if they win UCLA on the road.
I agree. I think Oregon wins the game. I like them offensively, Darren. UCLA's come a long way, but Oregon wins.
I'm right there with both of you guys.
All right, into the SEC, LSU at Ole Miss.
Oh, here we go.
People are glancing over it. Darren and I will pick this game a little bit later on with Michael Flint. They're glancing over at LSU. Oh, wait. They beat Florida last week. Everybody thought they were on the mat. They came back and win the game. Who wins this week, though, between the Bayou Bengals and the Rebels right now? 7.5 in favor of Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss.
I do a lot of media stuff now since I have a home up there in NOLA States. And I tell people there's a reason why they let Coach O go and let him stay and give him his, $16.7 million, because they didn't want him to talk. That's plain and simple. They didn't want him to talk about the skeletons that are still in the closets and all that. But I think this is probably good for the football team. They have nothing to lose. Just go out there and play football. I like LSU plus the points in this one. I think they keep this game close. Ole Miss ain't healthy. I think Ole Miss does win the game. Don't get me wrong. But LSU has nothing to lose for the rest of the season. Just go out, play football, play what you've been paying now these days, what you've been paid for up in LSU. I like them to cover this game.
All right, got to be quick on these next 3 here. Raphael, Tennessee, Bama. Does Tennessee cover the 25?
No, Bama wins big.
I've got Bama winning the game, and I know that you do as well, Darren, so I'll chalk you down for that. Ohio State is at Indiana. Ohio State 21-point favorites on the road at Indiana. Does Indiana cover that?
Indiana last year would cover that. Indiana this year don't cover that. I like Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State wins. Darren, Ohio State wins.
Ohio State wins. Careful. We haven't seen concrete proof that Ohio State's secondary and defense in general are completely fixed, and Indiana can throw the football. I like Ohio State. I don't think I like that number, though.
Ooh.
I think Indiana covering that seems more likely to me.
One of the national great games traditionally in college football, Southern Cal, Notre Dame tomorrow night at 7:30 on NBC. Notre Dame is a 7-point favorite at home against the Trojans. 58 is the over-under. Raphael?
If you're Cincinnati, you need Notre Dame to win to booster up your rings. And UCLA, USC's already got 3 losses. Put them down for 4. But they do cover. I think it's a close game. I think Notre Dame wins by 4.
I think Notre Dame wins the game as well. I don't know if they cover. I'm with you. I totally agree with that.
I like Notre Dame to win and cover for the record.
Notre Dame win and cover?
And cover, yeah.
3:30 tomorrow. Clemson, for the first time in a long time, is an underdog on the road, and they are at Pittsburgh. I just saw a note from Anna Hickey with 24/7 Sports. It's the first time since 2015, my God, that Clemson has played consecutive true road games. How they get away with that is unbelievable. But they're on the road. Last week, Syracuse. This week, it's Pittsburgh. Combine both audiences or both fan bases, and it won't equal half of what they would put up there in Memorial Stadium where the Tigers play football. Does Clemson, they're underdogs, Raphael. Do they win? 3-point dogs.
Finally, the odds makers do a number of Clemson this year, not Clemson last year with Trevor Lawrence and all that. But no, they go down. They're 0-7 against the spread after this game. Give me Pitt. I think Pitt puts the points on the board quickly, and we all know Clemson can't score or their offense is horrible. I think Pitt puts the pressure on them.
We'll pick that game later, Darren. And finally, Raphael, last one here. Gamecocks on the road at Texas A&M. It's a big number, 19.5 in favor of the Aggies. The over-under's at 45, so that should tell everybody what we already know. Carolina's offense has been putrid at best. Maybe they can find some points tomorrow night. We'll see. They've never beaten the Aggies in this series. Who wins? Who covers?
They don't. But this year's a different year. Give me a Gamecocks money line, and the whole coaching staff of Texas A&M goes to Baton Rouge. That's what I'm calling it. No, it's Texas A&M wins and covers.
It wins and covers. Raphael Esparza, you've always got us covered, and we've got your back as well on Twitter at VSI.Sports, mybookie.ag. It's so fun to catch up with you every week. We really appreciate it. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again next Friday.
I'll think about you when I'm drinking because it's my birthday weekend. Woohoo!
Hey, happy birthday. 35, 36?
Yes. So 48, but inside 84.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. Thanks,
Take
buddy.
it easy, guys.
Happy birthday,
Raphael Esparza. Happy birthday, Raphael Esparza with mybookie.ag. Timeout. When we return, the Big Gamecock Preview Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and to others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
To Rice, touchdown! He caught it in traffic. Big sack for the Gamecocks. JJ Inikbari walks it up, looking for Kelly. Touchdown! Can you believe it?
JB and Goldwater presents the Gamecock Preview Show, proudly brought to you by Motley Rice. Our history makes us bold. Our boldness makes history. And now it's time for some Gamecock football.
This is Rodgers again to the 25, 20, 15, 10. Rodgers scores! Back to Thomas Bindi, and Bindi spins into the open, and he's on his way. It's a tie-ball game if they can get the extra point. 20, 15, 10, 5. Second of the day.
There's never been more excitement about South Carolina football than there is right now.
I've heard all the stories of the great George Rogers out back in 1980, he made the whole nation holler. And I've seen that photograph of young Steve Tannehill up in old Death Valley, signing his name on the field. Yeah, and I love the year 2001 at the Williams Brass Rock. Oh, what else can I say? I'm just a big old car.
105, final hour of the work week, the Big Gamecock Preview Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice and served by Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam. Make sure you've tried Whiskey Jam straight or blackberry, which is my personal favorite, at your tailgate or tomorrow in your living room if you're going to be watching football all day. 7:30 on the SEC Network from College Station, that is Kyle Field, where they seat 102,733 screaming Aggie fans. It's 4-3 Carolina, 1-3 in the SEC, and Texas A&M 5-2, 2-2 in the SEC. But those two wins, they've come in their last two ball games by beating Alabama in a major upset and Missouri last week, 35-14. Jimbo Fisher, of course, is the head football coach for A&M. He's 31-12 in his fourth season with the program. Series all in favor of Texas A&M. 7-0, the Aggies lead it in College Station. 3-0, 4-0, of course, in Columbia, South Carolina. On the SEC Network, Tom Hart will call it. Jordan Rogers will analyze it. And Cole Kubelik and his bald head will roam the sidelines and tell you what's going on down there from the field. It'll also be nationally broadcasted on Sirius XM, the Learfield College Football Saturday night play-by-play. Kate Scott and Mike Golick, and Todd, Tommy, and Jamar have it on the Gamecock IMG Sports Network. If you are out of the area, make sure you've downloaded the Gamecock Sports app, and you can get it that way. Shane Beamer, 4-3 in his first year at South Carolina, got his first win last week in the SEC over the Vanderbilt Commodores. A couple of quick game nuggets to pass along before we get the very handsome JC Shurburtt in here. Kyle Field is the fourth largest ballpark in America behind Michigan, Penn State, Darren, and Ohio State. It is, though, the largest in the Southeastern Conference, and it is one of only 7 stadiums in college football whose capacity exceeds 100,000. First ever meeting between these two teams was a forgettable one for Carolina fans. Of course it was. 2014 in Williams-Brice Stadium, the first ever televised football game on the SEC Network. Gamecocks ranked 9th in the country that evening to start the year, coming off 11-2, the third straight under Steve Spurrier. Yeah, they were embarrassed by Kenny Thrill and the A&M Aggies, 52-28 embarrassed, the final score there. And Texas A&M hasn't really looked back since then, JC, as we get you in here. Certainly it is a big spread. We just talked about it with Raphael. We'll pick the game here in just a little while, 19.5 in favor of A&M. Seemingly is playing better football now, but they've also had their struggles this year. It's going to be a great challenge, though, for Gamecock football.
Absolutely. I mean, it is anytime you play these guys, and Carolina seems to draw them when they're playing well. You mentioned that 2014 game. You know, Carolina maybe plays them later in the year when Kenny Hill starts to just tank. You know, maybe that's a different outcome. But certainly he was on that night. You sort of look at it in 2019, A&M was hitting a stride on their way to the Orange Bowl. They won 30-6 out at College Station. And then last year, on the way to the Gator Bowl. Then last year, they come to Columbia and it was the worst home loss in the SEC since 1995, when the Gamecocks lost 63-7 to Steve Spurrier's Florida Gators and Danny Werfel. And that was kind of the beginning of the end. That's when you started hearing rumbles about Will Muschamp's job probably being in jeopardy if they didn't beat Ole Miss the following week. Just an ugly game. A&M dominated from start to finish. Jimbo Fisher 4-0 against the Gamecocks, got a win in the Chick-fil-A Bowl in a very infamous game in 2010 when he was the coach at FSU. And then he's been 3-0 against the Gamecocks in College Station, a 3-point win in 18 and then the last 2. So this is a tremendous challenge. I think switching to Zeb Nolan at quarterback in some ways maybe makes people feel better, I think, because it's always kind of about your last impression. Last impression we had of Zeb, he led a game-winning drive. Last impression we had of Luke Doty. He couldn't hit the ball broadside of a barn for good reason because of his health. Now he's out for the year, so it's the Colonel Zeb show, I guess, for the rest of the season. And the scary thing about that for the Gamecocks is, they still can't run the football, still can't block very well, still can't protect very well, and they need to do all those things if Zeb Nolan is going to lead them to some wins. I think Zeb's got a pretty good arm. I think Zeb can make throws, but he's got to have time. And they got to maybe try to scratch out some sort of running game tomorrow night if they're going to have any chance to stay in this one. You look at A&M statistically, guys, and you look at their results this year. Yes, the win over Alabama was gigantic, enormous. But they've also had some games they hadn't played all that well. Their quarterback is not the guy that was going to be the starter. He had a great game against Bama. I thought he was pretty solid at Missouri, although they ran the ball really well. But they lost to Arkansas, couldn't really put points up. Had a close call against Colorado out in Denver earlier this year. They've lost to Mississippi State at home. A&M is not above losing a football game. I mean, let's not act like, there's some impenetrable force. And I'll remind everybody about these wins over Alabama. Don't forget, South Carolina beat Alabama 11 years ago. Follow that up with a loss at Kentucky.
Yeah.
Auburn beat Alabama in 2017, then promptly goes to the SEC championship game and gets smoked in a rematch against Georgia 27. So it's not as if, sometimes wins over Bama get you really going. Now, I did think A&M. I think A&M is an awfully impressive football team. I love Isaiah Spiller. I love their other running back, Arcane. They have excellent receivers. Carolina's defense, as much as we've praised it, guys, it's a good defense. Is it elite? Probably not, and they're probably going to have to recruit their way out of it. It's certainly good enough to have more wins if they had any kind of offense at all. They got to get back to stopping the run. If Carolina can find a way to hold the run against the Aggies, get in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 and more, then your pass rush comes into play. And then this quarterback, sometimes when you pressure him, somebody will tip a pass or he'll airmail one. And that can create turnovers, which the Gamecocks are going to have if they have any chance to even cover the 19.5, just to be honest, tomorrow night in College Station.
Believe it or not, this is only the second opponent that Carolina will have faced this year ranked at the time in which they play the game. Georgia, of course, was the other. Generally, JC, by the time we get to week 8 around here in Gamecock football, you've had at least half the teams that you're on your schedule in the top 25. Now, other teams have been in the top 25, but at the time of the game, this is only the second one for South Carolina. Aggies 18-4 at home under Jimbo Fisher, but one of those 4, by the way, this year against Mississippi State. The Bonham Trophy is at play this weekend for those of you that didn't realize there was a trophy in the series, and why would you? It's never been in Columbia, but they're going to play for it. So who knows? Maybe it comes back this way or comes this way for the first time ever. If it does, that would mean that South Carolina got their first win over Texas A&M, which is their permanent Western Division opponent. I know some people would like to scrap that whole debacle at this point in time, and it could be coming with expansion in the SEC. It would also be this win, if they can get it, over A&M, South Carolina's first win in the state of Texas since 1957. I wouldn't even have thought. My parents were 5. They've lost 5 straight, only 5 games played in the Lone Star State since then, and obviously it would give them their second SEC win, which would match last year's 2020 win total. And guys, most importantly, it would make Carolina 1 win shy of bowl eligibility. Hey, you want to hear stat boy? You ready?
Ready.
South Carolina in the last 2 meetings against A&M has been outscored 78-9. They haven't scored a touchdown against the Aggies since the final minutes of that 26-23 loss in 2018 at home. JC, for a team that doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, it's not good.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the state of Texas stuff. Gamecocks all time: Michigan, Ohio State, Texas. Right, 5-1. Go figure. 3 of the most iconic brands. That 57
More,
game
yeah.
was a King Dixon. I think King Dixon either had a long run. We remember King Dixon for his tenure as the athletic director, but he's a heck of a football player back in the 50s.
And by the way, I spent some time with him, JC, when he was working for Dixie Youth Baseball in South Carolina.
Sure.
Could not have been kinder to me. He was. I know a lot of people did not, and rightfully so, like what he did as the AD at South Carolina. Could not have been nicer to me. I really appreciated him.
Yeah, he was dumb. He made some really dumb decisions and really uncalled for decisions and ruined a lot of sports as the AD, but he did oversee the transition to the SEC at the time. And, it didn't really set up his programs too well. But, he was a great player, one of the all-time great Gamecocks, passed away recently. He's from Lawrence. I know a lot of people from Lawrence that have a lot of respect for him. But, yeah, that was the only time they've ever played the Longhorns. So Carolina's 1-0. Texas joins the SEC. And, unfortunately, this A&M series just has not gone well, and it went from bad. After 18 and loss, because that was really a tale of two halves. The year before, Kurt Roeder decides to go turtle ball with 9 minutes or 7 minutes to go in the third quarter, like 22 minutes of football left, when Jake Bentley was on fire and the Gamecocks, were up 17-7 with the football. The energy's about to go out of that stadium. And I told you, A&M is not above dropping a game at home against a lesser opponent.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, run up the middle punt. That allowed A&M to get back into it and win. So it went after 18, you go, wow, this has been frustrating because there's 2 7-point losses in College Station, an 11-point loss when A&M was a top 5 team at home in 2016 before Bentley took over. And you're like, this is – come on now. Yeah, the Gamecocks have to win this at some point. And then it just went from, frustrating to awful and a domination. And it just seems like Carolina, I pulled up the stat. They are 5-13 since 2002 against the permanent opponent from the West. That's the year 03 is when they went to one permanent opponent. So Arkansas and now A&M, the Gamecocks seem to get them when they're cycling up. Then Arkansas goes off the schedule. They're historically bad for a while. And A&M comes into the league and, immediately starts making some noise with Johnny Football and Kevin Sumlin. And then they go out and make a big hire with Jimbo Fisher. And it's been a tough series for Carolina.
JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com. JC, the first quarter, I think tomorrow is going to be very important to South Carolina because they've been outscored in the first quarter 59-38. Now, there's an asterisk on that number because 28 of those 59 came against Tennessee. But the last I checked, all points count, right? So they have been outscored 59-38 in the first quarter. A&M outscores opponents in the first quarter 69-37. You're under the lights at Kyle Field. It's already going to be a raucous atmosphere, and we know that they are going to come out and try to punch the Gamecocks in the mouth. So you mentioned stopping or slowing down the run. I'm not sure that you stop A&M's run game, but you got to find a way to at least slow it down or send it into a tailspin from time to time. I mean, a couple of numbers to pass along here before I pass the baton back to you. Isaiah Spiller, outside of that Bama game, averages 7.6 yards per carry in SEC games. And the guy who's going to come in behind him, Deacon, I can't pronounce his last name, Akani, who cares? Doesn't matter. 6.9 yards per carry in SEC games. So basically what I'm telling you is the two top tailbacks for the Aggies average over 7 yards an attempt. Well, if you do that on first down, I think your odds of getting a first down are pretty good. So Carolina's got to find a way to slow that down and get Zach Calzada to try to throw the football because he will turn it over. He's done it in every game he's played in.
Sure, yeah, and then great game against Bama, and they really were dialed in for that one. But, that's what you want, I think, if you're Clayton White and the South Carolina defense is get them in third and more than 6, obvious passing situations, and get off the field. You can't just sit back. Now, they have good receivers, and Jimbo Fisher will dial up a variety of pass plays, and he'll throw it short of the sticks, and those guys are good enough to dart in there and get a first down. So, you got to tackle well in the secondary too. But I just think if South Carolina, is going to have any chance to stay in this one, right? They're going to have to get off the field. They're going to need some help. They're going to need turnovers. It can't be like the Georgia game where Georgia just ran through them. I know Kentucky piled up some yards at the end of the day, but Carolina's defense with the turnovers and everything, they were able to manage that pretty well. In this one, it can't be like Georgia, where Georgia just lined up and went and ran through them. And A&M is a similar style of offense. I didn't include Tennessee in this because, that's a different animal right there with the tempo and all that. So, their defense is going to have to play well. And like I said, I think it's because the offense has been so bad. A tendency is to find the positive and say, well, the defense is playing well. I think the defense is playing as good as it can. And I think the issues are fundamentally different on both sides of the ball. I think on defense, they have a bunch of guys who are maximizing their talent, and whatever holes you see out there, it's probably a function of talent. They're going to have to recruit their way out of whatever issues there are on defense, and they're doing the best they can. Offense is a different story, as we've discussed at length. So, I think Carolina, needs to have a cycle back up better than anticipated game on defense to have, any chance at all. And you look at the Aggies statistically, they're 78th in total offense.
Right.
This is not a team that's averaging 500 yards a game.
And on that note, by the way, they only average 345 yards per game against SEC opponents. Yeah. That includes Missouri.
44th in total D. Okay. They're 56 in run D. They're 53rd in pass yards allowed. Carolina's 16th, by the way.
Yep.
The Aggies actually statistically have the 90th ranked passing offense. Gamecocks have the 80th. Who figured that? And the Aggies are 65th in turnovers forced. The Gamecocks are third in the country in that mark. So you can kind of look at the stats and say, okay, well, this is probably – and look, I'll be honest, Texas A&M has played a much better schedule than South Carolina. They played tougher opponents more often. But, you look and statistically they're not this impenetrable force. They had a really good game against Bama, and I think they avoided a letdown in Missouri and ran the ball really well against the Tigers, which everybody has. I got to quit saying that here because the Gamecocks go out there in a couple of weeks, and I don't really have any faith the Gamecocks are going to be able to run it against them, to be honest. But, they did a good job of not having a letdown going up to Columbia, Missouri after that big win over Bama. So they're kind of clicking on all cylinders. It's going to take a great effort and a flawless or as close to flawless of a performance as you can get to get out of there with a win. Gamecocks don't have to play perfect, I think, to keep it close as long as they compete. They have to play better on offense, but I think it's going to take to win this game. It's going to take no mistakes, which hadn't happened this year, and a lot of other stuff that's kind of going against the trend that this Gamecock football team has been on the first 7 weeks of the season.
Yeah, it's going to take what I call quit being stupid, because here's what's happened over the last couple of weeks. So in the last two wins, y'all know who the last two wins are against, right? Troy and Vanderbilt. Just in these two games, they won the games. And this is what happened in these two games combined. 20 penalties for 171 penalty yards.
It's a lot.
Seven, hold on. 7 fumbles. 5 of those, of course, they lost, and they threw 2 picks. Luke Doty threw 2 of them last week. One of them, he was under pressure. It was a tough throw, but they still threw 2 picks. In the last 3 games combined, that does include that debacle that happened on Rocky Top. 25 combined total penalties for 206 yards, 9 fumbles, 6 of those lost, and 3 interceptions. So to Shane Beamer's point earlier in the week, JC, I tweeted to somebody earlier, Lance, if you're listening, hope you're doing well, buddy. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Yeah, that's a good question. And I answered it with the best of my ability. You are what you are till you're not. I mean, they've been who they are all year on offense until they're not. But to Shane Beamer's credit, earlier in the week, while he was asked about play calling, JC, he also said some things that have a ton of truth in them. Play calling didn't cause guys to false start. Play calling didn't cause guys to just drop the football while they're running with it. That's called a fumble. That's not on the play call. That's on the player. So, I mean, it all has to be cleaned up. It's all been a debacle. Now, here's where some hope stands in this game. JC, you and I were talking earlier on the phone before we popped on the air here. A&M, defensively, they run a 4-2-5, very similar to South Carolina. And what do, JC? They put those 4 guys up front, and they tell them, hey, go get the ball. Go get the quarterback. Have at it. DeMarvin Leal's got 5.5 sacks this year. I think the front 4
really
combined have 23.5 tackles for loss and 13 sacks. Just those front 4 guys. What do they do with everybody else? So they let them just sit back there and play defense. That's something that Zeb Nolan is capable, if he can get some protection. If Carolina can find a way to block those guys, Zeb Nolan is going to be pretty good in that situation. He's proven that, not just the final drive of the Vandy game. If he's not having to hurry up and throw the football, he's pretty accurate, JC, and we've seen him throw it down the field. And I mentioned earlier, I've got a sneaky feeling that this game might be better than some people are giving it credit for. That's why I think that even though it's not going to be perfect tomorrow night offensively, I do think there's a couple big plays sitting in there for Zeb Nolan. I think he's going to hit them.
I mean, he throws a nice ball when he gets time and he can set. And, I think sitting out, watching Doty, watching it unfold, getting used to the speed of the game and all that has probably helped him a bit. And he's a real smart guy, and he's basically, you hear the term coach on the field. Heck, if you're going to run this complicated offense, you probably need a guy that's a coach on the field. If you're going to run something that puts a lot on your quarterback, you probably need a coach on the field. You probably need what's called a game manager if you're going to do that. Now, I would never want to do that in college football, but if, you like it. And I thought, looking back on Zeb, I thought he started the Georgia game obviously really well, right? But then he went out, 61-yard pass, then he has to go out. The East Carolina game, there were a lot of other issues. Like, that was the game where half the line is blocking pass, half the line is blocking run. That was the height of the confusion. They're still confused. Don't get me wrong. Still confused.
Yeah,
but it's not that bad, and Zeb did have a nice touchdown pass in that ball game. Probably would have had another one to Josh Vann had he not fumbled. Actually would have. Up at ECU. So, it was encouraging to see the offense go right down the field against Vandy for the win. Now, Beamer mentioned play calling, and he's right about all those things. Shane was factually correct about all those things. If you don't run an offense that's like the Beverly Hillbillies car, which is what they have tried to do all year, which is a clunker, then you're not ever in that situation. You can overcome the 4 turnovers, and that's kind of what you do against undermatched teams. And I know the idea, according to Satterfield, was he always wants to get it into the 4th quarter, and so I guess against everybody, but that's the deal there. I mean, is that and I don't necessarily disagree that the play calling didn't cause all that. What I would have liked to have seen is an organized college offense that wasn't a dumpster fire, that you could go out and by the time you're worried about a late fumble or late pick or whatever, the game's out of hand.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would differ on that. And I understand he's just trying to stand up for his coaching staff, and Shane's going to be a positive guy, and that's just who he is. And I think fans need to kind of get over it, to be honest with you, because it's and I wish I'd have been here Wednesday to talk about that, because I see a lot of idiotic takes out there about, he's what's he doing in the press conference? He's clueless. And I'm like, dude, it's coach speak. There's not a coach in the country that goes in the press. Steve Spurrier is retired, okay? There's not a coach in the country besides Mike Leach that goes into the press conference and just says whatever's on his mind. It's all, even Nick Saban, everything he says is for his players. And I think that Shane is just trying to not lose this team. And he's doing what he's supposed to do as far as those public comments and stuff go. And I just wanted to say that because I see just a lot of dumb takes about Shane on the press conference, how they're sick of it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you're 7 games into a coaching tenure. So what? I mean, the guy's super positive. So what? That's a breath of fresh air. And, I don't really – if I'm Beamer, I don't really care what the fans think as far as my press conferences go. I've got two audiences. I've basically got my players who are going to listen to it, and then I've got recruits. And that kind of energy helps both of those things. And I wish people were smart enough to realize that. They're not, obviously, but or some of them aren't. But I wanted to mention that people need to back off Shane Beamer and his there are much bigger problems to worry about than what Shane Beamer's saying on his call-in show or to the media or whatever.
I can assure you a lot of what you hear publicly is not what they're hearing in the building up in Columbia, South Carolina. One of the things they are hearing about in the building, to kind of wrap this up on a positive note, we'll get a couple picks in with you, JC, and get you out of here, is JJ Enigbari. One more sack for JJ, and he will bypass a host of dudes who he's tied with right now, 9th all-time in career sacks at Carolina. I feel very blessed because everybody on this list, from number 1 to number 9, I've seen play except Andrew Province, and I'm sure you saw Andrew Province play when you were just a kid. Eric Norwood is the all-time sacks leader at South Carolina with 29, as we all know, and then Province, and then Clowney with 24, John Abraham 23.5, Melvin Ingram 21.5, Devin Taylor at 18.5, Cecil Caldwell 15.5, tied with Cliff Matthews, and then the next sack or half sack for JJ Enigbari will move him ahead of these guys, JC. Stacey Evans, Kalimba Edwards, George Goss, and Darius English. Those guys are pretty good. So JJ Enigbari is well on his way not only to a first-round draft selection, but probably a top 10 pick. He's the highest-graded defensive end in college football right now. And he's going to have a big game tomorrow against Zach Calzada, or at least force him into a mistake for Carolina to be in it in the fourth quarter. As you just mentioned, Marcus Satterfield said he'd like to be.
Yeah, I think Enigbari. I haven't heard a whole lot out of Aaron Sterling lately, to be honest. Maybe I've missed it watching the games. He needs to get after the passer. Otherwise, honestly, I know everybody loves Aaron Sterling, but Jordan Strawn probably needs to play, or Jordan Birch more, if Sterling can't get off the blocks and put pressure. It's going to be paramount for the Gamecocks when A&M's in passing downs to get pressure. I mean, if they're not getting pressure, it's going to be a long night. If you're not stopping the run, it's going to be a long night. If you're not getting pressure, it's going to be a long night. So those are two things I'm really looking forward to watching with the Gamecock defense against a pretty good offensive line is, can they get pressure, and not just from Enigbari and, Zach Pickens, who was really good against Vanderbilt. They need all their guys getting after the quarterback, Jabari Ellis, all those guys. So that's a key matchup for me, obviously, is the pass rush.
Yep, they're going to have to get there. It's a talented offensive line for A&M. Clearly, they run the football. That is their strength, period, the end. If they don't run the football, JC, gold jacket, green jacket. If they don't run the football, they don't win. They have to run the football to win, does Texas A&M, and they do it pretty darn well. So Carolina's going to have to find a way to cut that 7-yard per carry average from those two guys. By the way, it's A-Chain. You'd think that all the homework that I do, I would actually read in the game notes how to pronounce names. I didn't do that. So I apologize to that young man and his family. We understand they're big fans of Darren Goldwater, and that's why they tune in from College Station.
I'm big in Texas. Not only College Station, all of Texas.
I've heard. Hey, I'm going through the big D and don't mean Darren.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there you go. Elsewhere in the SEC, Arkansas Pine Bluff is at Arkansas. LSU is at Ole Miss. Mississippi State and Vandy in Nashville. Tennessee is at Bama, and Carolina, of course, and A&M. You know what's also interesting about this game, guys? Both of these teams are off next week. You don't see that much where two teams play and then they're both off the following week. But that's the case for the Aggies and the Gamecocks. JC, we've shortened you because you're so long-winded, even though we love you. You only get to pick 4 games this week.
Okay, that's cool.
Because Michael, you don't live for picking games here. I mean, you seem like just gutted by that.
Yeah.
Devastated.
I can tell.
Yeah, Michael is, Michael stands by patiently, and he can't do it anymore. So he said, okay, we'll only throw 4 at JC. Nah, it's okay. No, we're not doing this intentionally. NC State and Miami are at 7:30 on ESPN2 tomorrow night. JC, I understand that you love Dave Doran. That's why we want to make sure that you would pick this game. And Miami, what an up-and-coming program that is. They're 2-4 and 0-2 in the ACC without Mr. NIL, Derek King. All these NIL quarterbacks, guys, Derek King, DJ Uiagalelei, Spencer Rattler. Yeah, they're not any good. None of them. They all suck. And I know that King is out, but he sucked before he was out. Who wins the game?
NC State, because if there's a bigger fraud than Dave Dorn, it's Manny Diaz. You're going to be transfer you and get all these transfers in there, and they're not worth a flip still. I look for him to be fired, maybe even after this game. They say the administration down there doesn't care about football, so maybe not. NC State, this is probably Dorn's best team he's had ever. Even that 2017 team with all the NFL draft picks lost 4 games, lost to Wake Forest, lost to Carolina. I think this is his best team. And I think they're really good. Zonovan Knight is an excellent running back. And Miami's going to lose, I think. And those of you out there that are Canes fans, maybe Lane Kiffin will be your coach next year.
Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, brother. I don't know.
Well, Lane Kiffin's got a game to come.
I got this. I got a little birdie talk to me this week, today about some stuff. So,
well, hopefully he doesn't dip out in the middle of the night. So if he does, he won't be there for the LSU Ole Miss game tomorrow that plays at 3:30 on CBS from Vaught Hemingway Stadium. All of a sudden, LSU's off the mat. They beat Florida last week, 49-42. Can they pull off another upset on the road this week against their SEC Western rivals?
It's one of those games, where you got a team that historically struggles with another team, but this is the year they're better. I'm going to go with the upset.
Holy moly. JC.
I'm gonna say Gold Tigers.
Started drinking early today.
Gold Tigers.
I wish, man. I wish.
High scoring, low scoring.
It's going to be high scoring. And I think LSU found its run game last week. The Ole Miss defense is still very porous. And I think LSU has the ability physically, even with all the players opting out and hurt, they have the ability physically to make it a more physical type of game than I think LSU wants. I think it'll be high scoring, just like the Florida game last week. But I do think that LSU has a shot to go in there and beat Ole Miss.
That's the last time I'll be coaching at Vaught Hemingway Stadium where I started my coaching career. Go Tigers. I have a Hummer. Everybody has a Hummer. I'm going to go beat the Ole Miss Rebels.
3:30 on ESPN, moving along here to a different set of Tigers. Clemson is at Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett is trying to stick it to Clemson as they come to town. Underdogs for the first time, JC, and I believe it's something like 8 years, 7 years, whatever. It's been a while. It's also the first time since 2015 they've had consecutive true road games. Syracuse and Pittsburgh, two very hostile environments. Clemson not playing well. They've got Joe Ngata out this week as well. Offensively, it's been a real struggle. DJ Uiagalelei, just, guys, he hadn't been good, and now he's going to be missing his best weapon out there, so they're going to have to pull in, quote, or reserve, but the reserves at Clemson out wide are generally 5 stars as well, so who knows who steps up. Does Clemson step up and get an upset victory on the road over Pittsburgh?
I'll say this, Pittsburgh's defense is starting to play better. They had that win over Tennessee, and then Western Michigan beat them 44-41, and Pat Narduzzi sort of changed some things up, and they've been hot. They beat New Hampshire 77-7, Georgia Tech 52-21, and then had a big win in Blacksburg last week. Held the Hokies to 7 at home. So Pitt, the Panthers. I'm usually pretty nice about picking Clemson because I know people – if I pick against Clemson people are just going to chalk that up as the least credible pick ever.
Yeah.
But I might have picked Pittsburgh. I just think Pittsburgh's got too much offense for the Tigers tomorrow to where even if Clemson finds a run game, DJ Uiagalelei does some things, and Clemson's defense is awfully good, I just think Pitt, offensively is going to be able to give them a lot more problems than Syracuse did last week in that Friday night weirdo game up at the Carrier Dome. So I think too much offense, too much Kenny Pickett, and the Pitt defense is playing better. So I'm going to go with the Panthers beating the Tigers up there at the home of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is what's cool about being a Clemson fan. You get that great indoor feel at the Carrier Dome last week, and you could just cruise right on down go to Buffalo, come right on down through Western Pennsylvania, maybe go take a tour of a coal mine or something, and maybe go see where they filmed the movie All the Right Moves. And then you get to go to this stadium, which I think is really, really cool. I've been there before.
It is a neat stadium.
Way back in the day. That's right next to where the Pirates play, PNC Park.
Yep, that's a neat
beautiful
stadium too.
Beautiful downtown Pittsburgh. So if this is when you're kind of jealous of Clemson people when you're Carolina people, because they get to go to places like Boston and Pittsburgh and Syracuse and all that.
I'm not jealous of that, but it is a nice ballpark.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going to Pitt.
Darren can back me up here. Darren, Pittsburgh, Philly. Pittsburgh way better than Philly.
Yeah, your estimation there is only that close, so it fits in your camera.
Yeah, it's way out here, right?
Be bigger than that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, guys. I'm gonna break in here. Isn't that Pittsburgh where they put French fries on the sandwiches, right? Do they need a defensive line coach?
Permani Bros.
Yeah, no disrespect to Philly, but Philly fans or Philly people, I have met a lot of great people from Philly, but Philly is kind of a dump.
Pittsburgh's cleaned up a lot.
Pittsburgh's a neat place.
It's nice right there on the river. It's really nice. So
Yeah.
Coach O's probably going to be good coaching there.
Oh, you like the French fries on the sandwiches? It's like a po' boy from down on the bayou.
JC, we got Michael Flint coming up next. We got to move it along here.
I'm sorry. I'm on the Coach O voice.
I hear that.
I've got a little cold or something.
Okay.
So I sound just like him.
You do.
Dayquil and NyQuil. All right, A&M is the host to South Carolina tomorrow night. We know it'll be raucous in College Station, where over 100,000 fans are expected at Kyle Field. It's a big spread. Carolina looking for a major upset. JC, can they get it done?
It's one of those things when you make predictions, until they do it, can't do it. I know we talked earlier today, and we both kind of have a weird feeling about this game. But that may just be, what I ate for dinner last night. I had to pick A&M, and I always pick the same thing I pick on the podcast, 38-7.
Wow.
Because until the offense shows that it's capable, it's not. And, I think eventually the Carolina defense, even if they have a spirited go of it, just like in 2019, it was a close game sort of late. And then A&M ran away with it at the end because the defense just wore out. So I kind of unfortunately envisioned the same scenario. And don't worry, Gamecock fans. Carolina will win this one eventually. I don't think A&M is going to be the permanent opponent for very much longer, but I don't think that will be a permanent opponent, really.
That's when they'll win.
But, you may have to wait a while, but eventually Carolina will win. A&M is not – they're kind of a potential school rather than a traditional power. But certainly right now they've got a leg up on the Gamecocks and all kinds of advantages. But you never know. That's why you play the game. You got to have faith, like George Michael said. And I love quoting George Michael when the Gamecocks are going to play a school with all-male cheerleaders.
Attaboy. That's what I'm here for, JC. Next week, you only get to pick one game. One game is what we're going to shorten you to next week.
I'm so sorry.
We can get no, I'm just kidding. We love you. Of course, we've mentioned a couple times this week, and I've talked to you personally, but all our best to you and Nat. With the loss of your pup. We certainly miss you around here, but more than anything, as Darren said on Monday, there's nothing worse than having to put the pup down. So thoughts and prayers are with y'all.
Thank you, bud. And I'll be back Wednesday with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And looking forward to seeing you guys really soon. And hope you have everyone out there has a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. JC Shurburtt, owner of the Big Spur up in Chicago. Time for a timeout. Michael Flint up next on the Big Gamecock Preview Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
You're tuned in to the Gamecock Preview Show, brought to you by Motley Rice. Our history makes us bold, our boldness makes history. And served by Whiskey Jam Whiskey, handcrafted just like a song. It's a South Carolina original, best shared with friends. So let's go Gamecocks.
Danny Hill, he'll run, touchdown! Oh, watch him celebrate now.
1:46 Friday afternoon. Welcome back, the JB and Goldwater show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show, taking you until 2 o'clock. Thanks to JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com. And now, Michael Flint, the best-looking single redheaded man that I know. Ladies, if you'd like his phone number, send me a DM. I'll pass it right along, but it's pretty simple. 843-999-LOVE to find Michael Flint. What's up, man?
Oh, not too much. How y'all doing?
I'm just happy I found Michael Flint. Darren, quick time here, story time. I called him twice last Saturday. He didn't answer. He didn't call me back. I get a text at like 11 o'clock at night that I thought maybe this can't be good. On what the text read, I thought, well, is he in a ditch? Is he in the back of a truck somewhere? What's going on? I called him Sunday, no answer. Called him Monday, no answer. Called him yesterday, no answer. But he picked up your phone call today, and that's all that matters.
Hey, we were doing a crabbing tournament.
Yeah, that's what they all say. So find Michael Flint, 843-999-LOVE. If you'd like to go crabbing with Michael Flint. Oh, man, I'm done with trying to get you a date. If you're not going to pick up the phone, I just can't do it. All right, Mike, you are here, right? You're not like in Texas, are you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. If you answer the damn phone, I might know some of these things.
Mentally and physically.
No. That's what I'm talking about. He's getting physical. Carolina's going to need to be really physical if they want to try to win the game tomorrow night against Texas A&M. And they might need to ring more of Jaheim's bell. You know, Jaheim Bell, get it? He's caught 10 passes for 179 yards in the last 2 games combined. Michael, I mentioned to JC earlier, it's a 4-2-5 that the Aggies run. And, you know, clearly South Carolina has proven all year long that they can't score. Zeb Nolan is going to get the start tomorrow night. He can hit some big shots. He throws the deep ball well. It's those intermediate routes that from time to time he struggles with. But that 4-2-5, they generally try to let the 4 up front get the push, and we'll see what happens from there. That's Coach Elko's defense over there in Aggie land. If that's the case, Michael, I actually think that there's a chance tomorrow night you could see a couple of deep balls for Carolina. I think Zeb Nolan's got a chance to hit them, and I think that's their only chance to stay in this ball game and give them a chance in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be a tall task, to try and go to College Station and do what we want to try to do. But I think you're right, Jaheim Bell. I think I said last week that Jaheim Bell is one of the guys that is starting to get more comfortable out there. Starting to get more targets, and I think you see that we have to be able to get him the ball. The type of athlete he is, the mismatch nightmare that he is and that he provides, and it's just getting him the ball, getting guys like Josh Vann the ball, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and then being able to take that shot and really take those deep shots in a calculated way to where you set it up to where you get those defensive backs and everybody kind of coming towards the line of scrimmage, pressing after we've hit a couple quick balls, and then you hit them deep. So, it'd be great to see some good, some deep ball throws, but really calculated deep ball throws and setting them up and trying to get Texas A&M to bite. And that's exactly what we need to do from a coaching standpoint, is really set these guys up to put them in positions to have success. And I think it starts right there, just simply with the play call. And so, what we've seen historically, I don't know, but, I think that's kind of what we need to do to be able to take those deep shots.
So, Mike, Coach Beamer mentioned this week, they're all expected to play, but Zaquandre White, Kevin Harris, Marshawn Lloyd, all nursing ankles. So somebody last week for Vanderbilt was twisting and churning guys when they were going to the ground is the only thing I can assume here. But they are, again, expected to go. Juju is back. Juju on that beat. The Juju, remember him from suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So in knowing that there are some bang-ups with the running back group, knowing that you have Juju back and they have been utilizing him in a multitude of ways, the emergence of Jaheim Bell, it's hard to anticipate anything different because we haven't seen – and they've tried different things, but I'm talking about the end result has been the same over the last 7 weeks, basically, outside of Eastern Illinois. With who has emerged and with the injuries that we have, you talk about trying to set things up from a play calling standpoint. How do you envision that?
I think it's I think this is that point in the season where everybody's a little bit banged up. You got muscle soreness, strains, sprains, kind of anything of that nature. But, once you get into the rhythm of the game and you start to warm up and the blood starts flowing, some of those aches and pains tend to go away. As you loosen up, warm up, it's just, once you sit down and sit back and, you're kind of off your feet is when those things start to flare up. So, I don't think it's too terrible because once you get into the rhythm of the game, you get into the flow, a lot of those little nicks and dings you start to feel a little bit better once the blood starts flowing. So, I think it's just that time and that point in time of the season. But, I think start to see a little bit more of everybody running back. Like I said, said it earlier in the year and before the season started that, we got really good running backs. And this is that time of the season where everybody really has to be able to step up because there are guys that are going to be dinged up, guys that are going to get hurt. And so we need to, that guy that catches the hot hand, could be that guy they roll with. And that could be, Zaquandre White. I know Kevin Harris dinged up and with his back problems, you got to be very cautious. Marshawn Lloyd, starting to let him kind of go, starting to get back up, get his knee back under him and gain that confidence. But, it all starts up front. We got to be able to block for those guys. If we can't block for those guys, it's going to be a long day, as we've seen this season so far. Is a lot of those guys up front look lost. Is it scheme? Is it just not knowing what to do? Is it technique? I think it's a little bit of everything. But it's got to come together for those guys at some point because this is, the starters, 4 of the 5 are back from last year that blocked for the leading rusher in the SEC with less talent across the board on the offense. So, it's a mystery to me on what has happened and how it's happened. And something, speculate all we want, whether it's play calling, is it scheme, is it not knowing what to do, any of it. But those guys, it's got to click or come together at some point for these guys. And hopefully, we can have some success running the ball because that's one we've proven we can't just get out there and just try to throw it all over the yard and expect to, great things to happen. So we've got to be able to run the football. The guys up front have to be able to block for him and, try to catch the guy with the hot hand and continue to press on him.
Yeah, speaking of running it, Quandre White looked good last week, Michael. Jalen Brooks didn't play last week. He's not going to play again this week. He's absent from the team with a personal matter. Shane Beamer did not put a timetable on when he might return. Xavier Leggett played in his place and had quite a football game. Matter of fact, caught the winning touchdown pass from the arm of Zeb Nolan in the back of the south end zone to beat the Commodores last week. So we'll probably see him a little bit more, right? And my question continues to linger, though. If E.J. Jenkins should be playing, why is he playing behind Josh Vann? I mean, I don't understand, Michael. How difficult is it to get this guy on the field, and why is it so difficult that you could at least try to understand and explain to all of us?
It's tough. Kind of one thing you want to do is you want to get your best guys on the field. It doesn't matter what position they play. It's kind of what Coach Muschamp used to always say about, depth on the offense and defense and who's the next guy up. The next guy up is the next best guy. It's not necessarily the person on the depth chart. It's the next best guy. And, I don't know if it's from a mental standpoint of not knowing what to do at different positions. You learn one position and you can't figure out what the next guy is really doing, or, from a mental standpoint. So I don't think that's it. There's no telling, we're not at practice, every day. But it's, it is kind of a bit of a mystery because you've seen what he's done with the limited reps that he's gotten and kind of that catch radius that he has. And it is surprising that we haven't seen him more. I don't know how he's done in practice, whether it's dropping the ball or not knowing what routes to run or block it, whatever it is. But you gotta let guys get in there and play. There's a lot of guys that do really good things, but they're just kind of gamers, and they may have some struggles in practice. The talent is there. You've seen it, but sometimes guys just get into a game and it's just you just see a different person. And there's guys that are vice versa. All practice all Americans, and you get into a game and it's lights kind of turn off a little bit, dropping the ball and not knowing what to do, and just different things of that nature. But it is a surprise that we haven't seen more of him throughout the course of the year. So it's, it's really no telling. It's, a lot of it is, internal. And I like, with Brooks being out, maybe this is the time that they kind of let him go in and let's see what he can do. But, it really is, it's a tough call.
He's 6'8". I just still don't understand it. Mike, how 3-8, they rushed 3, they dropped 8. Vanderbilt did last week in a prevent defense. Prevent generally prevents you from winning, and it did for the Commodores. Carolina squeaked it out. How is A&M, at least in your mind? I mean, the way that I've looked at this 4-2-5, they like to let the front 4 guys go, and if they can't get there, they'll send pressure from elsewhere, maybe the nickel or a linebacker or something like that. But how do you envision them attacking Zeb Nolan because he's not fleet of foot?
No, and that's the thing. So I don't think you really have to bring a lot of guys. If you can get pressure, ideally, from a defensive standpoint, if you can get pressure with just 4 guys and rattle the quarterback, it's going to be a very long day for any team. For any team offensively. It's, we're going to have to do a lot to try and neutralize that. And, with just bringing 4, and if we have to end up utilizing a tight end to stay in and block or a running back to stay in and block, that's going to make it even more difficult because that's one less guy in the route and one less guy that's putting stress on the defense, whether it's vertically or horizontally. And we need, everyone out there if they're, rushing 4 and those offensive linemen being accountable. But if they are able to get pressure, it's going to be a long day. I think you'll see Texas A&M do some different things from a, blitzing standpoint, stunts, different types of stunts. But I don't think they're going to bring a whole lot of pressure. Now, if they see that there's just holes all over the place, and they could bring 5 guys, maybe add a 6th guy and just go, and then Zeb has no time whatsoever to throw the ball. You could see some of that. But if they're having success getting pressure on the quarterback, I think with the offense that we have, it could be a long day for us. But I think you'll see some blitzes just to see what type of, how much pressure they can get, how much they can rattle Nolan. And, the more, like I said, they start bringing pressure, he's rattled. He's looking down. Doesn't have his eyes downfield. It could be a long day, potentially.
Michael Flint, couple minutes on the defensive side of the football. Mike will make some quick picks, and we'll be out of here by 2:05 this afternoon. That's the goal here, Darren. 205. Mark that down and ring a bell when we're getting close. For A&M, Calzada is going to lead the offense out there, but we know that Spiller and Achane are their best two backs, about 1,100 yards between those two thus far this year. So they're going to get carries, and the average combined about 7 yards per carry, Michael. But get to know the names Aeneas Smith and Zach Weidermeyer, the tight end, who's pretty darn good. Aeneas Smith is also is the best punt returner in the SEC. So don't let him get loose, or it's probably going to be lights out for Gamecock football. Defensively, when this is a football team that if they can't establish the run, they don't win. Michael, they have to run the football to win. Calzada is not an elite quarterback who's going to be able to go out and throw it 50 times a game and pitch it around the yard and get a victory like that. They have to run the football. He will make mistakes. So defensively, led by J.J. Enigbare, and, of course, Jalen Foster, a midseason All-American now by the Sporting News.
Mm-hmm.
What do you anticipate seeing from the Gamecock D tomorrow evening and how they approach this offense?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, shutting down the run, stopping the run. I think we got the front four to be able to do that. The second level worries me a little bit with the linebackers is, run fits and making sure we're in the right gap and doing what we're supposed to be doing. But I think we have the guys up front that could potentially be disruptive and be able to stop the run. Shutting down the zone read with the quarterback, letting the quarterback outflank us on the edge. I think you'll see some guys playing a little bit tighter to the box and forcing, A&M into a lot of passing situations. So, I like our front four. I think, Zach Pickens played is probably the best game he's played.
No doubt.
All around last week. I think in the way that we use J.J. Enigbare, I think there's a lot of creativity over there. Aaron Sterling playing really well. I think those guys have played really good fundamentally. And I think just seeing what Coach White has done with those guys, I really think he'll have a game plan for us. And those guys have always given this team a chance to win. And I don't, think it'll be any different this weekend. I think you'll see some guys playing a little closer to the box. Maybe that fifth defensive back or nickel or spur, whatever you call them, playing a little bit tighter to help in run support. Seeing Jordan Strawn out there potentially a little bit more, being able to play in the box to stop the run. So it is going to be interesting to see what we do. But I think Coach White has been very creative throughout the course of this year and really giving this team a chance, to win these games and get creative on defense. The way we use J.J. Enigbare coming from all different parts of the field, whether it's standing up in the middle and just letting them go or hand down in the dirt or wherever it is. And so I do like our chances, but the defense, has to show up, and I think they will. I don't have any doubt that the defense is gonna play well and at least give us a chance, to have some success and, give the offense a chance, to maybe score a little bit. But, I think Coach White will have a good plan with, some guys playing a little bit closer to the box than we may have historically done this year.
Gamecocks ranked 4th in the SEC in total defense, 1st in the league in turnovers gained. And that is better than both Georgia and Alabama. Michael, I thought you'd like a couple of quick nuggets here before we get these picks in. One, a guy that you and I both know very, very well, watching our program today. He says he'll be in town for the Florida game, and that is none other than one of the great hitters ever in Gamecock baseball history, Michael Campbell. So when he comes strolling into the capital city, we'll make sure that we get him over our way so we can all get together. The other nugget I wanted to pass along to you, in addition to Stacey Evans and Darius English, J.J. Enigbare right now with 15 career sacks, 9th all-time on the Carolina sack list. But in addition to being tied with English and Evans, he's also tied with a couple of guys well. One very well, Kalimba Edwards and Big George Goss. The next half sack or sack for JJ, he will pass all of those guys up to 7th on the list for South Carolina. But anytime you're in the conversation with Darius English, Stacey Evans, Kalimba Edwards, and George Goss, you've probably done yourself a pretty good service. Probably a pretty good player.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have. Kalimba Edwards, I think, first, second round draft pick. George, had he not hurt his knee and had some knee trouble, would have been right there. And George had a nice little career in the NFL for a handful of years. So it's definitely a good company to be in.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Next up on the list, Cliff Matthews, Cecil Caldwell. They were also pretty good players as well. All right, Mike, we got 4 games to pick to round us out this afternoon. We'll start with NC State and Miami, 7:30 ESPN2 tomorrow night. Can Miami get it turned around, pull an upset against the no.
Well, he's not going to pick that game if he's not on the phone.
He didn't want to pick the game. 18th ranked NC State, 7:30 tomorrow night against Miami, as Darren is trying to get him back in here from Hard Rock Stadium. I will just go ahead and say that I have, alongside JC Shurburtt, who already picked the game, NC State winning it. They are 3.5-point favorites. I think that they will cover that, Darren, and I think that they will beat Miami, and Miami will fall to 0-3 in the league, 2-5 overall.
I'm right there with you, and Michael Flint is back with us.
Michael, NC State, Miami. In Miami Gardens, who wins?
I'm taking NC State. I think NC State runs away with this one. I think Miami's struggling.
I think Miami has fallen off the map, no question. LSU and Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin trying to avoid his Rebels being upset by LSU, who maybe found it a little bit last week with that touchdown victory over Florida down on the Bayou. Can they do it again this week? They're 8-point dogs at Vaught Hemingway.
This is a tough one. I think, I really like Ole Miss. I think LSU has the talent, but I think Ole Miss just has too much offense, and those guys are really coming together with Matt Corral back there. I think it's going to be a little bit closer game maybe than some expect, but I think Ole Miss ends up winning.
Agreed.
My big question here is, how healthy is Matt Corral? Is Lane Kiffin kind of doing a little rope-a-dope here with the whole comments publicly this week that he's not that healthy? And you want to believe what you just saw from LSU, right? You want to believe that's who LSU can be. I don't know where to go on this game. I'm going to take the bigger sample of Ole Miss over part of my belief that LSU is actually going to win the game. But I'm going Ole Miss as I walk that line as thin as I can.
I don't need to say anything else. I don't think you could have said any better than that. Corral is the key. If he's not there, I think LSU wins the game. Number one. Number two, the larger sample size in my eyes goes to Ole Miss. I like what they've done on a more consistent basis. I'm with you. I think it's a great way to put it. So we both go, all three of us go with the Rebels. The Tigers and the Panthers. Michael, 3:30, ESPN, Clemson, Dogs at Pitt. Who wins?
I've been back and forth on this game. It's tough. I mean, you've seen I go back to what Darren says. You are what you are at this point. I think Clemson's offense is struggling, and Pitt does a lot of things well. I think Pitt's got some creativity. This is a tough one. I've been going back and forth, and I was gonna go Clemson, but I think Pitt pulls it off.
I agree. Pittsburgh wins. I think Pittsburgh wins. I think they win fairly comfortably by a touchdown or more. Clemson falls to 4-3.
I think Pitt wins. I think there's a chance that Kenny Pickett vaults his name onto a lot of the Heisman list that he's like circling around right now. But yeah, I think most people should be on Pitt right now, right? You can't come thinking that Clemson's going to magically find it more than halfway through the year when they're continuing to lose more guys. So I'm on Pitt also.
I agree. Darren, I agree. Clemson, although as a team they're not that good, their defense is still elite. And if Kenny Pickett can go out there and play great football tomorrow and put up a big game, there's no question he should be right in the thick of the Heisman race. No question. I totally agree. Can Kenny Pickett stick it to the Tigers? We'll see. And by the way, here's a quick note from AD Blake James down at Miami. This is what he has told Susan Miller-Dignon, who is a beat writer for the Miami Herald, about Manny Diaz. Quote, he knows we need to win games. I can't look into the future. I think it's a situation where Manny is our head coach, and he's getting the guys ready to play.
There you go. Go get him.
But we asked you about whether he'd be the head coach next year, not whether he was getting them ready to play tomorrow. Yeah, that's what you get. All right, South Carolina and A&M, 7:30 on the SEC Network from Kyle Field. 102,000 will be there in attendance tomorrow night. Michael, it would be a stunner for South Carolina if they can pull it off. Who wins?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to go against your guys, but I think Texas A&M had their struggles earlier this year. I think they've gotten better. The way they played against Alabama, of course. looking really good. They did all the little things. It feels like with Texas A&M is starting to come together. Now, if we can do some things to get disruptive and put them back into that earlier season form, maybe defensively, we could have a shot. But I just don't see it with the offense. I don't think we have the firepower. We haven't seen it at all this year. I don't think this is the week that we see it either. I would love to, and I would love to come back next week and be absolutely wrong. But I just don't see it happening this week, and I think Texas A&M wins this one and runs away with it.
Darren?
Well, I said earlier that I thought it'd be right around the number, and that's where I think it'll be. I mean, I think it'll be in that 20, 23. I'm going to go 33-10. And it's really coming down to the simple fact that what are you going to get from this offense? And that defense can be whatever it wants to be. But if that offensive line is getting punished, and if Nolan doesn't have time to throw, and they're only rushing 4, and he doesn't have time to throw, and this rushing game, do you think it's magically going to be found because White had a good day? I don't see it. I think there's a little bit more made in the A&M win over Alabama. And that's why some are like, they're going to put up 40 or 50. I'm going to go 33-10.
I think it's a good pick, Darren. Carolina will get beat by Texas A&M tomorrow night. But like I said, I think that this is going to be a little bit surprising to some from the scoreboard standpoint. I think, Michael, there's going to be a lot of similarities to the last 7 weeks because you are what you are until you're not. And right now, Carolina is what they are, and they just don't score a lot of points. I do think, though, that there are going to be a couple big hitters for Zeb Nolan tomorrow night. I think he'll put a couple of big ones together. And I think they're going to hang around a little while. And as a matter of fact, I think they're going to end up squeaking in a cover on this 19.5. And somebody's going to be able to at least talk about the game that if some weird things happen in the fourth quarter. But no, they will not win the football game. I think A&M will end up winning this sucker probably somewhere in the 34-17, 34-20 range. And Carolina will still be too shy of bowl eligibility. To the most handsome redhead I know. What's that?
I said, if we score 20.
Yeah, 20 is the number, baby. 20. Got to get to 20. Michael, you're the best-looking redhead I know. Again, his phone number, 803-999-LOVE for all the ladies if you'd like to get a hold of him.
I appreciate that.
He goes to the gym 5 days a week. So just so you know.
I don't know about that.
He's buff, he's lean, and he is mean, if you know what I'm saying. Mike, thank you, man. I'll give you a shout later on. Good stuff as always. And answer the phone if you don't mind, or I'll just call Steve.
Y'all have a good one. Appreciate y'all.
Later. Michael Flint, former wide receiver at South Carolina. If he keeps avoiding me, I'm going to start having his brother, who's also a former wide receiver at South Carolina, be our new analyst. What do you think about that, Darren?
I mean, if he's ducking your calls, you can't have any faith that he's going to just show up if he's ducking you.
I told him, I said, hey, I don't even have any friends. You're like the only friend I have left. You have to answer. Oh, God. I got to go. Tired. I'm with you. How did it take 3 weeks to get to Friday?
I don't know. It took forever.
I don't know. God bless baseball. It's going to be a great weekend. Hopefully, be able to watch baseball, college football, the NFL. It's a wonderful weekend for sports. Thanks to Darren, as always. This guy's really good at what he does. I hope you all acknowledge that. He's really good at what he does, and I can't do it without him. Blessed to call you a friend. Thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful weekend. JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show next Friday. But we return Monday at noon.